There are four people that are very difficult, whose minds are very difficult to change. The first one is an African mother who is following a false prophet or pastor. The second one is your broke friend who wants to buy a car. The third is a girl who is in love with a useless guy.
I knew that was one you were going to mention.
And the fourth one is a young Nigerian who's trying to jackpot. Just those four people are very, very difficult. Their minds are very difficult to change. And I think I'll throw in a fifth. That's an entrepreneur in love with their idea. I don't touch them. They can't be saved.
Wow.
Just like the African mother following a fake prophet. They can't be saved. It's just one of those things. You can't talk a girl following a stupid guy out of, man, this Shagun guy is not good for you.
Hi there. Welcome once again to the Just Start podcast, where we bring you stories, insights, and conversations around business, enterprise, culture shaping, and leadership right here from the city of Jos and beyond. It is always good to be here with you. I'm sure that you've enjoyed the previous episodes so far. It's been a beautiful journey. I have enjoyed every single guest and every single time that I have been here, bringing these interesting conversations with you, to you. And you know the drill, wherever you are. If this is your first time joining us, thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving us of your time. Welcome to the Just Start podcast. Please hit the subscribe button, like, share, and leave a comment. Let's know where you're watching from. Let's know what parts of this entire conversation resonates with you. All right. Thank you so much. Today, I have a very wonderful, interesting guest. Someone who has spent many years helping entrepreneurs build and scale real businesses. He is a startup mentor and advisor, entrepreneurship educator, angel investor, and VC strategist. I have with me Mr. Abimbola Ladeji. It is so good to have you here today, sir.
Well, thank you so much, Timothy. The honor is mine.
Awesome. How have you been?
Great.
I'm glad that we finally get to do this after many conversations back and forth.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of feel like I died and went to heaven. This is impeccable.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. All right. So before we dive into all the serious stuff, I'd like to know, before all of this that we just mentioned in the intro, educator, this one, VC, all of those big things. Before all of these happened, who were you before all of this, and what really drove you into entrepreneurship and helping people build?
Yeah, I was first kind of worried when you were introducing. I was like, is that me? For reals? But I think behind the titles, I'm really just a regular person. And it's my ethos in life. I always try to just be me, regular me. I think I was shaped by my upbringing. I mean, my parents worked in the university. So, of course, growing up in a university community kind of shaped my mind. I mean, being raised in Jos also is very interesting because there's something about just being born and raised in Jos. So I think also that kind of contributed to who I kind of like was. But I would say I was just really this kid I was unconventional. I was the kid who would open my toys to figure out how kids were interested in playing with toys. I was more interested in figuring out, why did this toy work this way, right? I remember everyone around me would rush at 4 p.m. to watch Sesame Street, and I just really never liked the program. I mean, I shouldn't be saying this like it's funny. I would always want to do other things, and one of those other things was kind of like reading. So I think my passion for books kind of took me into another world. And I think that was kind of like the journey into, because basically I'm someone who always thinks about the future and how the future unravels. And I think through books, I kind of connected with this otherworldly experience that was kind of like personal to me. So I think I was just really a kid who was unconventional from the get-go, and I've accepted that unconventionality, and I've lived with it all through my life, yeah.
Amazing. So at what point did the interest for entrepreneurship At what point did it come in?
So I think I would say I don't think I started as an entrepreneur. I think I started as an ideator because I was always all about ideas. I mean, I still have a notebook I've had for over 30 years that really had like the first ideas, like a popcorn joint, a magazine I wanted to start, an event management outfit. And how old was I? Like 17, 18, 19-ish. So I had that. So it was always about ideation and always wanting to just do things and be creative with the thoughts that one had, right? I'm not sure there was really like a distinct point that I knew that, oh man, I had this entrepreneurship thing. But I think also going back to upbringing, growing up, I saw my mom go through two, what would they call them? But retrenchments back in the day. In the civil service, they'll call it retrenchment. And so, I would see my mom go from having a job to not having a job. And I don't ever remember her crying. I don't ever remember them talking about it. But all I remember is, she's selling snacks from the boot of her car. And so she's picking us up from school, and then she's stopping by to sell. So it was never a thing we were embarrassed about or anything. So I think that kind of just built the concept of, you have hands, you have a brain, you can do stuff, do it. So honestly, I think it was really normal for us. So at that, I would say my mom was probably the first person who gave me a sense of you could do something on your own. Because what did mom do? My mom sold eggs. She sold basically minerals like soft drinks back in the day in the crates. She made pies, she made cakes, she would do catering for people, and all that was happening in the house, because I remember we used to go and steal the drinks. We would raise the crate and take a bottle from the middle section and drop it. So we did all that crazy stuff. But the house was always, so people, she sold fish. And so people would come, and my dad used to hate it, because people would come to your house at 8 p.m., 10 p.m., they want fish. But all that was happening through my growing up years. And so I think it was the normalcy of entrepreneurship was watching my mom transition that retrenchment situation.
So you saw that in that situation that even when there was a lack of a job, the things that she was doing was bringing daily income. And that kind of shaped how you saw this problem solving.
I kind of like the way you put it, because I don't remember. I wouldn't have even thought about it like that, but I like the process that you're kind of like outlining, because I don't remember her reading the dailies, because back then the world wasn't like this. You had to buy Tuesday Guard. There were just these newspapers you buy and open the classifieds to look for jobs. I don't really remember her looking for a job or talking to friends or the people we knew who were influential to get her something to do. She just started doing the things that maybe it helped that she was trained as a caterer. She has a background in hotel and catering, industrial catering and hotel management. So maybe it helped. So, but I never thought about, I lost my job, start looking for another one. In my head, the connection was, I lost my job, start doing something else. And then, like what you said, it was bringing in income. My mom is a really independent woman. She always liked to have, she would always say, every woman needs to have something she's doing so that you don't have to ask a stupid man for, maybe it was not politically incorrect, but she said, so that, if you fight your husband and you want to ask for money to buy Maggie, he wants to play over your head because of that. But she always believed that a woman should earn. And so, so I think that was kind of like how I understood. This can lead to this, right?
So Nigeria is a very interesting place, and not very easy for business. And we'll get into some of those really intricate stuff, right? But what mindset separates those, in your opinion, who quit from those who thrive?
Wow, that's a really powerful question. That's a really powerful question. When I think about it from my own experience, and I think about it from the privilege of the experience of other entrepreneurs that I've known, and so I think, again, I'll say this, I think people think that entrepreneurs have a different quality. And no, I don't really think so. I don't think there's an entrepreneurship quality. I think it's just a human quality translated into certain spaces. Those who give up easily across board, right? So, I mean, what I see, the people who have held on, I'll say a number of ingredients are key. First is conviction. Most of the times, people do entrepreneurship out of convenience, not out of conviction. And most times, if I always tell people, plan A is going to work because there's no plan B. When I set out to be an entrepreneur, I didn't have a fail-safe plan. I didn't have a fallback plan. And I knew that if I failed, I was done. And thankfully, thank goodness, thanks to God, I'm still on the journey. It's been long and arduous, but I'm still on the journey. And I think that's the first thing. People, just conviction. This is what I'm cut out for. This is what I'm here to do. This is what I was put on earth to do. I can't be anything else. So I think that's the first thing. So you keep grinding, you keep pushing because you know that your ultimate fulfillment lies in there's a word you use that I like, expression of those ideas and thoughts and notions within you. So I think the first thing is conviction. The second thing I think is resilience, because every conviction you have is going to be tested. And I think human beings don't get that. You know, inspiration and aspiration is not equal to conviction. You don't always have to be excited to be convinced. You just need to be convinced, right? So resilience is the next thing. You'll be tested on every level of on every level of the things you believe. Can you hold on to this conviction despite? That's the second thing. And I think the third thing, and I feel equally important, is follow through. I tell people entrepreneurship is always mistaken for ideation. Oh, we're creative. We have this. I remember people maybe say, "Oh, we have this idea and we have that idea." I'm like, and so everybody has an idea, really. Everybody knows what they want to do with their life. Everybody has an idea of better circumstances for their life. What is missing is the ability to execute, the ability to implement. So that's the third factor.
Yeah.
If you can't translate ideas into reality, then of course you're going to give up at some point.
Yeah.
So talk is cheap.
Yeah.
You know, so I think those three ingredients, conviction, resilience, and execution. If you have these three things, you would have staying power. I mean, classic example, look at Dangote.
Your guy.
It doesn't get, my guy, I love that. It doesn't get bigger than Dangote when it comes to entrepreneurship. But Dangote is dealing with challenges that most of us would break under. But he still, you can see those qualities, conviction. When he said, I was going to do a refinery, it was a thing nobody thought possible. Resilience. We can see what has been going on in the last couple of years. Yeah. If he's not fighting one government policy, he's fighting one union, he's fighting independent marketers, he's been fighting. And then execution, just taking a vision and translating it into the world's largest privately owned refinery is tremendous. So those three ingredients, I think, separates, and I think they are human ingredients.
Now, how have these three played in your own specific journey, especially from going from that young kid, young teenager who saw his mom doing, doing business, right, to evolving into you getting on your own entrepreneurial pathway to where you are right now?
So let me start with conviction. I mentioned earlier that I was always this unconventional kid, so I was different. And when you're different, it's sometimes it's a torment because everybody just wonders. Everyone wants to go out to play. You want to be indoors reading. Everybody's downstairs. You're upstairs. Everybody wants to be. You were just this odd kid. I also remember at the time I'm surrounded with people who are skilled. I had friends who could draw. They could sing. They could play soccer. They could play instruments. I just never had those skills I was always amateur at everything I did. And I remember had this childhood friend, Dan, and I was talking to Dan one of those days, and I was like, man, dude, everybody around me is so skilled. Like, what am I all about? And he was like, have you ever realized your ability to bring people together? And I was like, I'm talking about talent, and you're talking about, it's like, yeah, that's your talent. No one amongst us can do this, but you can take each one of us and bring us together to work as a team. And I think for me, that was one of the first times I became aware of what I had as an individual, right? And so that informed decisions I started taking. So I knew that because I had that gift, then I was called to lead, essentially. Because if you have the ability to bring people together, then you're not trying to follow. You're trying to, then what do you unite people around? You unite people around a vision, a dream, right? Some kind of picture of the future of tomorrow. And so that was kind of like how we started. So we started doing projects, and then you say, hey, we want to get this started. You bring people together and you execute. And it was exciting, to be honest. To translate something in your head into reality is probably one of the most beautiful experiences that you could have in life. And so I think that just led me in a journey of I started pushing out what was in my head. If I thought it, I tried it. And then I started that helped me to start to understand what I wanted to be. And I had this experience, it was an interview. I started doing stuff from school, like, again, watching mom see how we grew up. We were allowed to do little businesses, selling this and that. I was always entrepreneurial through school. So I already started earning money before I graduated. In fact, at the point in my life, my mom used to borrow money from me. Oh yeah, when salaries didn't come, she started, when salaries don't come at a point, she'll say, hey, I need some money, and I would let her have it. And I already knew how to make money before I graduated from school. And people go to school to get a degree so that they can get a job, so that they can make money. So I started asking, if I'm already making the money I was in school for, what was I going to do when I was done? Because I really didn't need a job. And so I was like, do something worthwhile, build something. And so that was when I knew that was what I was called for. And it also helped, or didn't help, that I had seen at the age 17, I had seen Dangote on there was this program called Business Unusual on CNN. And it used to air, I think, Sunday morning. And so I would skip church. I'm happy to say that. I would fade illness or something just so that I could watch it. And the first time I saw Dangote on it, I was like, this guy is going to be great. And yeah, so I wanted to be like Dangote. That was kind of like, so I knew what I wanted to do. So conviction, and the conviction has helped the consistency and the resilience, because there have been bad days, man. There have been bad days. There have been failed businesses. I've failed more businesses, than I've been successful. I haven't really been successful in many businesses, but the ones I've been successful have been phenomenally successful. And I tell people, when people ask me, what do you think of the secrets to success? I was like, I really don't know. But I can tell you what you will do to fail. So I think I would write a better book on failure than on success, right? But the resilience has kept me going. I mean, I think about 2005, 6 years, I was building a business, and I was building the business with someone very close to me, and that relationship fell apart. And along with that relationship, that business fell apart. And everything I had went into the business. So I went to zero. Yeah. And it took 10 years to build, from 2008 until 2018, when I started finding my footing financially. 10 years. I was a very broke guy for 10 years, because I took a bet and it didn't work out. But it didn't change the vision of being what I am today, by God's grace and all that. So that was the resilience part. There's so many stories in between about how I just said, you know what, it's either this or nothing. Again, like I said, I don't have a plan B. I don't know what else I can be if I'm not an entrepreneur. I don't know what else I can be if I'm not investing. I don't know what else I can be if I'm not building the next big idea. I really don't know. Maybe the president of Nigeria, I will take that for, instead of entrepreneurship, but nothing else, And then for execution, I used to be all about ideation for a while. And when I started getting into the startup space, long before it started morphing into what it is today, I think by 2009, I was really building, we were building, about the time a platform called Jobberman came out. There was a long ASU strike. We were also doing something similar. We called it Job Fisher. And it was building that platform that I realized that it wasn't about ideation, it was about execution. And so I started, I stopped being in love with my ideas. Yeah, so right now I really I don't like ideas. I don't hate them, but I don't like them. I just like, okay, fine, I've heard you. Can you execute? So when I moved into that space, it was just amazing. And the ability to just take an idea, break it down into the executionable bits, put a team around it with people with the sufficient skills to be able to, execution is just like watching a real good football team play and score and win. That's kind of like it. So I when I learned that, I just make my life a habit of execution. So we're on this podcast right now. This is execution.
Yeah, it's execution.
You said something. We've been trying to do this.
Yeah.
We did it. So it's no longer a thought. It's no longer a conversation about when can we. It has come to pass.
Yeah.
And so that's what I would say about those things.
You said something about falling in love with the idea. Yeah. And it's something that we actually see a lot at Etinia, because everybody comes with big ideas and everything. And sometimes, for many entrepreneurs, the love for the idea is so great that it blinds you from seeing other opportunities that you can morph this idea to become even better. Yeah. Also from the perspective where that idea might not be completely, maybe the word is not profitable. Yeah. Maybe the word is, it might not be great when you fully execute it. It might not be as great as you think it is in your head. Yep. Right? But so how do you then get somebody to go from holding this idea so tight? How do you, holding the idea so tight to being willing to pay mind and attention to saying, okay, how can we build on what it is to execute and execute at the most in the most profitable way, for example?
So interesting, and I don't think I have an answer to that. So I would say an entrepreneur. So there are four. A friend told me this, and I've kept it to heart. He says there are four people that are very difficult, whose minds are very difficult to change. The first one is an African mother who is following a false prophet or pastor. The second one is your broke friend who wants to buy a car. The third is a girl who is in love with a useless guy.
I knew that was one you were going to mention.
And the fourth one is a young Nigerian who's trying to jackpot. Just those four people are very, very difficult. Their minds are very difficult to change. And I think I'll throw in a fifth. That's an entrepreneur in love with their idea. I don't touch them. They can't be saved.
Wow. Just
like the African mother following a fake prophet. They can't be saved. It's just one of those things. You can't talk a girl following a stupid guy out of, man, this Shagun guy is not good for you. Nah, you become the bad guy. So that's it. So once I sense that in an entrepreneur, I just back out. I just allow them to remain in their illusion. You can't fight it. You just become the bad person. But what I try to do as an antidote is, if again, I said is like an entrepreneur idea is just like that person who has a baby that's not fine. There's no how you can just, every baby you carry, oh, your baby is so beautiful, but your mind is like, why is this baby's head so big like this, right? You don't say those things out. And so I think the first thing is that we need to, so I try to look at what is the antidote to this? How can we change this? And I know this is going ahead of the conversation, but when I look at my model for entrepreneurship education is important, just like life education is important. And I bring three things to the ground when I'm structuring entrepreneurship education. I frame it around mindset, tool set, and skill sets. You have to deal with the mindset first and change those false dispositions or orientations. And if you can do that, then part of doing that is getting people away from ideation to execution. So one of the things I try to do is to when you get into the entrepreneur's life, maybe in a mentoring program or you have access to them early enough, you can help them understand first execution. Many people are stuck in ideation because they don't have execution skills. Yeah, I always tell people, talk does not correlate to action.
Yes.
So when people start talking plenty, I start understanding that this is all we're going to be doing. So I tell the people, like when I mentor, I tell them, do, then talk.
Yeah.
I don't talk, then do. Let's do, then have a meeting about what we did. Let's not have a meeting about what we're going to do. So and I transitioned. This happened to me about 10 years ago. So like now I don't think. Oh, I know people are like, you don't think. I don't plan. I don't think it through. Okay, let me not say I don't think. I don't think it through to the end. This is what I want to do. Let's do it. End of story.
Yeah.
Then we can go back and find out what didn't we do right, what went wrong, what should we have done better.
Yeah.
So that's moving the mind shift, from this. So to the point, when I engage an entrepreneur, the first thing is I want to see how tied to the idea, what kind of soul ties do they have to this idea? Is it a do or die? Is it a make or break? You have to gauge the individual, and that a lot of that is dependent again on the personality disposition of that individual.
Yeah.
And then you have to understand there are many things that might be undertones. So, for example, maybe they've never done anything worthwhile in their lives, and this is the first real thing that they feel they own, and taking the idea out. So I don't like to meet entrepreneurs when they have an idea. I like to meet them when they're still trying to figure out what they want to do so we can shape, Because for most people, it's the first tangible thing. Oh, we feel we can do this. And how do you just tell someone who feels they can change the world that you can't? They just hate you in that moment and they walk away, right? It's just like, I use this analogy of the rich young ruler who went to meet Jesus Christ and says, what must I do to be saved? And he looked at him and said, you really want to be saved? He's like, well, that's why I'm here, right? I was like, okay, you know what? Do this. I've been doing this since I was a little kid. He's like, okay, just go back home and sell all the stuff that you had. And then the story ends with, he turned and he walked away sadly because he was a man of great means.
Yeah.
And so that attachment defines his image of himself, his perception of his identity. And for many entrepreneurs, their ideas define their identity. But unfortunately, entrepreneurship is about execution. So it's your skill set as an executor, as an implementer, that should define your identity. So when people say, are you an entrepreneur? What they're asking you is, what business are you in? What ideas are you? But in the real sense, when you ask somebody, what's your profession? When they say you're a doctor, it's not tied to the hospital they work in.
Yeah.
It's not tied to the medical school they went to. It's tied to their skill sets. Take him from Plateau State to River State, she'll deliver, right? It's about your specialization. I'm an ONG specialist. It has nothing to do with your gender. It has nothing to do with your ethnicity. It has nothing to do with your religion. All it has to do is with your set of skills. So when someone says they're an entrepreneur, what they really should be saying is that I have this skill sets that I can deploy. And once you can deploy those skill sets, then it doesn't matter.
So what are the most important skill sets that you look out to? And there's another question that will tie to this I'll come to much later. But because I don't want to get ahead of myself. But what are some of the most important skill sets that you look out for or that you expect an entrepreneur to have if they are going to actually succeed as executors?
As executors. So the first skill set to have will be the ability to translate. Okay, so let me even look at it from mindset perspective. So I talked about mindset too, but let me even just look at it more because sometimes I feel like the mindset and the skill set kind of tie in. So I think for me, the first thing I would look at is your willingness to learn. Your willingness to learn. Just come, empty your cup. I don't care what you think you know. Are you willing to learn something? Are you willing to see it differently? So I feel like that's the first disposition. If a person is willing to learn, then there is hope. But to your question of what skill sets are important, I think the first thing about translating ideas into reality is the first thing you need to be able to do is you need to be able to validate your idea. you really need to be able to understand what it is that you're doing. You said something that was interesting. That you might have an idea, but it might not be as grand as you think it is. It might not be as the market might not be. Someone say, people have this need. I've noticed. Yes, yeah, we get it that people have this need, but okay, let me give you a classic example. It hurts to use this as an example, but it was an example. I remember in about 2019 or so, there was a young man who was into building cars, and then he wanted to make fast cars, super fast cars, and people shared that. People called me up and went like, "Oh wow, there's this young guy in J-Town doing this and that," and I was like, "Man, tell this guy to stop really wasting his energy." And again, people was like, "You come again," because you just cannot be excited for people. I was like, "I'm excited for him, but I just think, why are you building fast cars?" The first question you have to ask yourself is, what's the market for fast cars in Nigeria? That's question number one. Question number two, what roads are you going to drive fast cars in Nigeria? Question number three, who can afford, how many people can afford? Again, people might say it's a luxury sector. Yeah, I agree. But the most ultimate question is, how are you going to build the fast cars? We had Peugeot in Kaduna. They closed shop and left. Mm-hmm. We have Innocent in Nigeria. How many units of vehicles do they churn out every year? Those are the guys who are already doing it. You need to take notes from them, right? I couldn't see the market. I couldn't see the need. So who buys fast cars? Celebrities. Nobody else. Or Formula One racers. Now the question is, why would I leave a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or a Ducati or a Porsche to buy the car that somebody in Jos Plateau made? Again, that's a real big question. Am I looking down on innovation that can come out of third world or developing nations? No, but I'm saying Burna Boy loves fast cars. Will Burna Boy buy your brand? If your answer is yes, then start. That's the way I put it, right? So the ability to validate your idea, I think for me is the most essential. That I know that you know how to get to the point that you recognize that this is not worth pursuing. It's the most important skill set for me. If I see that in you, then we're good to go. Because I know that we could keep iterating. We'll keep iterating. We know this. It's that whole go, no go, go, no go. And from an investor point of view, that's very important. You don't want to be arguing with people. It's just like being in a bad relationship. You don't want to keep telling your sister that, how long is this guy going to punch you in the face before you know that he don't love you, right? So how many bruises do you want to get before you understand that? How much money is going to go down the drain? How much of your children's school fees are you going to waste before you understand that this idea is not going anywhere? So I think for me, if I see that, every other thing you can build on top of that. Yeah.
So what would you say about the current state of the Nigerian startup ecosystem? Or better still, before we get there, because I think I should start from here. I remember one time we were talking and you talked about you and a number of people here in Jos many years ago, probably like 20 years or so ago, having an entrepreneurial ecosystem. Yeah. Would you talk about that in context to some of the things that you people had in mind then? Yeah. And where the entrepreneurial ecosystem, both here in Jos and in Nigeria as a whole, is now.
Okay.
Are there any changes? Are we moving forward?
So, are there changes? Yes. Quantitatively and qualitatively, I would say. Do the changes, what the changes indicate is very debatable. Yeah. So, I mean...
Sorry. Sure. So before you begin to talk about the changes, I want you to give like a little backstory on this group that I mentioned.
Okay, so let's see. This is way back, I think 04, 05, 06. There was myself, there's Matthias Agbo, Fred Ochuko, Fred Ochuko is his middle name, Fred Ochuko Edema, Tony Olanio, Casey Diala, Shola, No, Shola, you won't forgive me if I forget your surname. No, Shola, I just talked to you, and I remember Shola, my very good friend. Shola and Jerry. I don't remember Jerry's surname. Now, funny enough, with the exception of Shola, the rest of us all had backgrounds in architecture. So interesting when we start talking about architecture.
I had no
so far.
idea.
So I did architecture for 3 years.
Oh.
I did architecture for 3 years. And so we all had this background in architecture, but everyone, Shola Adigun. So everyone had a thing. So Jerry, architecture student, but Jerry was an animator. Jerry, comic characters, Jerry was awesome. Like, I still wonder why Jerry, and a comic illustrator, I mean, Marvel would rush to get Jerry. There was Matthias, awesome architect currently, but Matthias used to, he ran with a guy called Mayor. I think the first entertainment magazine on campus in UJ. There was Casey Diala, architect student, but Casey was into fashion. Casey was already doing like graffiti stuff on jeans and jean jacket, and so Casey had his brand, Casey Martin. I think it's Casey Martin. I don't remember. No, Casey Martin is an artist, but Casey something. I think it was Casey Martin. So before the Casey Martins, there was the Casey Martins, right? I don't quite remember what every other person was into, but we had this passion, and we used to meet. We used to meet at a place called Juice and Grill It back in the day, which is where Southern Fries is. Oh. And we met there so often because there were no meeting. I mean, right now you have hubs. Right now you have cafes that offer you Wi-Fi. No, man. Places that you can just go sit down and nobody's going to tell you nothing. But there you had to buy a drink or some snack or something. So we used to meet at Southern Juice and Grill It, and we met so often and we became so conspicuous that one day the manager comes down and threatened to arrest us. Oh yeah, because he knew we were up to something, and we were, but he didn't just know what we were up to. So he came down with all that, security and threatening to get the police until we told him what we were planning, and we just showed him our minutes we were taking from the meeting, and he was all apologetic and all whatnot. But what were we trying to build? Then we called it the Teens 10. It was called the Teen City Entrepreneurship Network.
Oh, wow.
10. And then we had, the whole project was to build a network of entrepreneurs. And again, we didn't have a term for all those things. Now they name things. We didn't know that kind of thing was called crowdfunding. Mm-hmm. We just knew, okay, hey, we're turning a group. Each month we put this amount together. And so, team, when it's ready for you to execute your idea, all that we've stashed up until this point, we'll give to you, you execute. And we kept on doing that. And we all sat down, we mapped out our individual plans and how we were going to move and how at some point in our lives we'll build and come back together to do this. So right now, Fred is an architect practicing in New York, Matthias is in Abuja. In fact, some of the UNDP projects, when we're talking about hub designs, the Katsina project, he's actually the guy who designed. He specializes in designing innovation hubs, and awesome guy. I don't know where Casey is. Shola moved from. Shola was the only person with a background, non-architectural architectural background. He had a background in psychology. Shola moved to Storm Records. And then eventually moved to owning his own production. So he's into movie productions, 1 to 10. He's done great stuff. Really documentary producer, awesome director, just a great guy. And so he's in Canada right now. I'm here, Matthias is here, Tony's in Finland. So the whole idea was, at the point when we're all established in our independent careers, we'll now have the financial backing to match our vision. So that was kind of like how we started understanding that there can't be, entrepreneurship is a lonely journey, and most people walk alone. And even the so-called communities that people are building, most times they're just the ego of the person who started the community. Yeah, especially in Jaws, another conversation. But what we wanted to do was create and I use this word carefully, create a brotherhood. So we were not just entrepreneurs who shared a common vision for how to execute, but we became friends, and then we became family. So I still talk to Shola today. I still talk to Fred. I still talk to Matthias. These are my friends. These are my family. We met our parents. We know our children. It's crazy, But that was what we wanted to build. And then we also understood that we could support each other. The first help you could get should be from yourself, right? And so that was kind of like how that mindset started. Then we morphed from there to about 2015. We now started something called the J-Town Entrepreneur Platform. It was really the first, I dare say, community in Jos for entrepreneurs. And we used to have a meetup. Then it was called the J-Town Entrepreneurial Hookup. You can't use that word hookup today, right? It is so funny that we would call something a hookup and people would come. And now it's amazing. Just 10 years ago, how words changed, right?
Yeah,
so we had
changes.
the hookup, and it wasn't that kind of hookup.
Of course.
It was, it was a meetup hookup. I don't know, whatever you call it now, but we started that, and we started building, and we started. We were doing innovative things like putting our event on Eventbrite and using Bitly. And people didn't, you put something on Eventbrite and people still call you and say, there's an event. So go to the website and do this. We'll put Bitly. And even at that time, people didn't even know what to do. This is like 10 years ago, right? And so we started building that. Eventually, we had to shut it down because people didn't understand what it was. People wanted to push political agendas. People wanted to push selfish agendas. And a number of people who frustrated the effort. I had a conversation with someone about 2 years ago, and he was trying to explain what was happening at that time. And he said, people were pissed off because you were not sharing the money. I was like, I'm sorry? What money are you talking about? He was like, yeah, the grant money. I was like, what grant money are we talking about? It's like, you got a grant to run this entrepreneurship project. I was like, oh, really? It's like, no, we ran this project from our pockets. And so it was amazing that people were fighting that project because they thought I had some money that somebody gave to me. And so that was kind of like how we were contributing. And it was through that platform I made friends with people like Yop, Pam Talk. We became very great friends because it was creating a platform for people to come and share, because she's one of J-Town's leading entrepreneurs. People like Ibrahim Dung, with Deals Frame, people like Sean Anuwe, people like Obi Brown, people like Selbol Lanap. And the list goes. Esla Embu. These are the goats, man. These are people who are, Esla will tell you, Abimbola, I don't even know how to write a resume. Straight out of ABU, Urban and Regional Planning, I got into graphic design. Esla is the guy who revolutionized graphic design in Jos.
Interesting.
He doesn't get the credit for it now. There's a lot of new kids on the block, and that's what I try to tell young entrepreneurs. Before you, there was. So they're the goats. They're the people who, and I'm not even going all the way back even to people like the Onigbin days, the bedrock, but I'm even looking in contemporary times.
Yeah.
So the whole idea was to bring these people together to share their skills. So we had the community, we had the sessions, we had the business clinics, we had, we started teaching them what we had 3 J-Town entrepreneurs, who we are, what we do, and how we can up our game. That was our mantra. So we focused on these 3 pillars: who we are, identity, what we do. Now you hear, GIZ is bringing structures called clusters, and we were talking about that 10 years ago. What we do so that we could understand what the strengths of Jos were. Why are we not focusing on agri-business? Why are we not focusing on education? Why are we not focusing on media? Why are we not focusing on entertainment? Why are we not focusing on the things that we're really good at?
Yeah.
And then how we could up our game. And the whole idea of how we could up our game was changing the J-Town mentality and making it more sophisticated. And so that was kind of like how that morphed into J-Town Entrepreneur. And then, and then after that, I left and I said, you know what, the next time I'll take a break, and then the next time I come back into the ecosystem, I'll be ready to take it to the next level. And then that's kind of like how we came back with Pitch Perfect, which is, I am really proud to say, J-Town's, not just J-Town's premier business idea competition, but J-Town's only business idea competition. So that's kind of been like a very summary story of how the ecosystem was morphing, how people were trying to shape. So it's even funny now, you have other platforms like Startup Grind. So it's funny that people don't know that I was actually the first local chapter director for Startup Grind. I brought Startup Grind to Jos. It's something people don't know. In fact, I had an event with Startup Grind Just chapter last year, and they mismanaged and they were really a bit disrespectful to me, and so I just called the person who used to be the immediate past local chapter director, and I said, hey, this just happened. What's going on? And I know the rules. This is not what should happen. And it's like, how do you know the rules? I was like, because the rules were handed to me when I was a local chapter director. He was like, you were a local chapter director? I was like, yep. And he was all apologetic. And he was all apologies. He was all, I'm sorry, sir. I was like, no, just correct the wrong. So a lot of times people underrate you because they don't know who you are, which I love anyway. But yeah, underrate me at your own peril, right? But those were the contributions, made. And this is not just only me, and that's why I keep using we.
We, yeah, because there were other people.
There were other people. And so when you hear anybody tell the story like this, you will know that they've been there from the beginning. So most times when things happen in Just and people say, but you've been away, how do you know? I was like, they don't call me Big Brother for nothing, and we just laugh about it. But there are people who had taken interest in the ecosystem and still continue to be interested in the ecosystem. Yeah.
Amazing. So the other part of this was between then and now, what are some of the critical changes that you have seen?
Yeah.
Having now you're like back here more often, and then interacting with a lot of entrepreneurial clusters or individuals. What are some of the things that are like differences between when you guys started this network or this movement to where it is now?
Yeah. So I think the first thing I would say is, and I'm really so envious and I get really like, entrepreneurship is an option now. And not just an option, it's a viable option. I would dare say it's the option. It's a thing you do now. It's a why not? Back then, it was like, are you okay?
It was the why without the not.
It was not even, I love that. I love that play, bravo, beautiful play of words. I love that. That was a class act. It was a why without the not. Why? Is there anything your parents were like, is there anything we have done? You wanted to be an entrepreneur, then your parents start looking at it like they failed in raising you. Yeah, we were odd. In my neighborhood, the younger kids, they're grown men and women now, but you know what they used to call me in my neighborhood? They used to call me Donald Trump. Yeah, because then, not Donald Trump is synonymous with a lot of crazy things now, but then Donald Trump was the guy behind Apprentice, the show, the entrepreneurship show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so at the point, Donald Trump was like the iconic figure for enterprise. And so the kids in my neighborhood, I had a friend, Kay, and so they used to call me Trump. They used to call Kay Prosperity Man. and it wasn't just the kids, it was people's parents. You just be walking on the road. Someone's like, Prosperity Man. Someone's father, professor, for crying out loud. And it was all, I don't know, some form of humane mockery, trying to wake us up to face reality, go get a job like normal kids. So it's so amazing. I'm so envious that it's an option. Do you know how many girls left us? Yeah, now people want to date tech bros. Whoa. Your girlfriend had a hard time when that, there was other question. What does he do? More, she can't talk. She's the one that is not proud in her group of friends. Whenever, my boyfriend works with Vodafone, Etisalat, Airtel, Zain, Celtel, or he's,
In the bank.
Bank, exactly. Well, he's Oceanic, he's in Diamond, he's in whatever. And you're just trying to explain that this guy is an entrepreneur. It didn't make sense. Fast forward, it's an option. It's a go-to option. Amazing. So that's one change. I think that's the major change. Then technology has just broken the barriers. It's just changed the game in a very unprecedented way, man. Like, people have the tools to do stuff. Your phone, what's your phone? People are running businesses on their phone. They have WhatsApp business. They have Shopify. Oh, man. oh man, it's amazing. So these two things for me represent change for the better, right? And the technology has made entrepreneurship even much more possible to do right now. So I see that the third thing I think I'll throw in is, or third and the fourth thing, government is waking up to entrepreneurship. So now they're shaping policy. Entrepreneurship is shaping policy. It's shaping political promises.
Yeah.
And that's amazing.
Yeah.
People are now caring on different levels about entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs. And I think a fourth thing is that people are beginning to take advantage of all this that is happening. And more people want to be entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah.
I really love that. Death to jobs. No. We need jobs. We need people to work. But one of the things that gives me joy is when a person quits their job. Wow. It's the most beautiful news I can hear. I quit my job. And a lot of people are not, I didn't work like one day in my life. I was what I call an extreme entrepreneur. There are people who have their jobs and then they have their side hustles. And that's what you would see. But now we're seeing more and more people who have no kind of work experience. The be your own boss mentality is happening. So these are the core things that I'm seeing that have changed qualitatively and quantitatively in terms of the numbers of entrepreneurs emerging, the numbers of businesses and business type ideas, throwing the tech and all that. So yes, beautiful for me, really amazing.
Amazing. So now I wanted to be able to give that backstory to be able to help us write on some other things that I'll be asking. But a number of founders and entrepreneurs say, the major challenge is funding.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? From your experience, is funding really the biggest challenge?
I need to answer that carefully. And in my careful answer, I would say anything is a challenge if you can't surmount it. Anything is a challenge. Because if you get funding and you don't know how to do your marketing well, then marketing becomes a challenge. If you get the marketing right and you get the funding and you don't know how to manage HR, then HR becomes it. I mean, I've had people who are in business who just tell me, I don't know why my people keep leaving. You have a key man hang risk situation on your hands. So anything you can't surmount, any problem you can't surmount becomes a challenge, right? But you said something, asked me something about the skill sets of an entrepreneur that I'll look out for. Yeah. I think essentially the most important skill set for an entrepreneur is fundraising. People think fundraising is a talent. It's not a talent, it's a skill. And I say this seriously. If you can toast a girl, you can raise money. Yeah, because the hardest thing to do is to convince a woman to go with you. That's a sell. That's someone exchanging, that's someone exchanging the rest of their life. What could you have told them? So if you can get a girl to say, yes, I do, you can raise money if you ask me. We're joking on that, but the sense of the message is there, right? So I kind of feel like ultimately fundraising is a skill that must be learned. And part of learning the fundraising, so I always tell people that if you can't answer that question, then you're not ready. I had this mentor growing up. My dad, as a professor, we had another family friend, a professor too. Both of them, my dad and him, shared the same name, Shola. So I used to call them my rich dad and my poor dad. My own dad was my poor dad. Not because he was...
That's typical Kiyosaki move.
Yeah. Not because he was poor per se, but because he was not into entrepreneurship. My dad had this very strong work ethic. My dad did his work and did it impeccably and never cared to look outside anywhere else for one extra naira. On the other hand, this other family friend was the person who really guided me into the space of finance. I knew about spreadsheets from him. All my years of entrepreneurship, I had never done a spreadsheet. I had never done financials until I went to meet him. I would always go to see him periodically to share my ideas and tell him where I'm at. And then he invested in other businesses, and one of those days, someone had come. I think they were trying to do a quarry or something. It was something related to mining or something related, and the person had brought spreadsheets, and he just handed the spreadsheets over to me and was like, look at this. And I was like, what are this? And I was like, oh, wow. And then he asked me to do that. He didn't tell me how. He just asked me to do that. And so I had to go home to learn how to put together a spreadsheet. And this was before Excel. So you can imagine me doing table on Microsoft Word, drawing out the tables and then months, and it was crazy. But one thing would always happen. I used to come with this expectation that he would listen to my ideas and give me money. And after we've talked for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, the next question that will pop out of his mouth is, so where are you going to get the money? And in my head, it was like, is this guy okay? Is this guy for real? Like, that's why I'm here. But I would always live with that question. Where are you going to get the money? And so the more I pondered on the question, and I knew I had to come back and give him feedback. So it forced me to start thinking that question has been the one question that is constantly on my mind. How are you going to get the money? And once you have a question, you turn it into a problem, then you start figuring out, okay, how am I going to get the money? Good question. I want to start business. How am I going to get the money? It starts with, it's a simple question. Someone comes to me, oh, we need 250,000 naira. I want to start a small business doing whatever it is you want to do with 250,000 naira. And I was like, okay, nice. Tell me more. And while I'm listening, I noticed that she's holding an iPhone. An iPhone, maybe 12, maybe 13, maybe 14. And I'm like, okay, maybe you might want to sell your iPhone. Maybe for 750,000 naira. Then take 250 off it. And then buy yourself some Gioni phone or Techno or Infinix for another 200 or Redmi for 150 and be good. And then you can see the look in the person's face, like the rich young man just walks away sad. Why? Because they're not ready to sell the iPhone, but you want me to give you 250 of my hard-earned money. And you know what? I use a Redmi 12C. For crying out loud. So I'm not going to fund someone who's got an iPhone. I won't. Because you're probably better off than I'm doing. I want an iPhone. You get, right? So the first question is, where am I going to get the money? Look at your hands. Okay, let's take it a step from there. You don't have an iPhone. All right, where am I going to get the money? Okay, maybe I can start with writing down the people closest to me in my life. Because I tell people, if your brother and your sister, your mother and your father won't borrow you money, then I won't. Yeah, they know you. They know your ability to pay back. They know all the lies you've been telling all your life. Timothy, just borrow me this 20K. I will give you back next week. Next week was like in 2017. So they know, so they won't touch you. So I tell people, if you can't sell to the people in your immediate circle, it's going to be hard for you. So I test all my friends. Just while I was sitting waiting for this podcast, I mean, we're doing Pitch Perfect, and we ran into some hitches with sponsors, and I just started doing voice notes to my friends, and it's calling up for, hey man, we're in this situation, we need to raise some funds. I'm talking to a few people. Let's see what you can do. That's fundraising. It doesn't seem sophisticated, but raising funds at the level of maybe VC, angel, or whatever, institutional, is just taking that little thing you're doing on the voice notes to a more formal stage, and that's it. So you must always ask yourself, where will I get the money? And you must be resourceful enough to answer it. And then once you can tackle it, that's why if you look at the whole thing, they talk about raising money, they talk about the 4 Fs, friends, family, friends, fools, and all that kind of stuff. So they expect that the whole idea of raising money is expected that charity should begin at home. Your fundraising should begin at home. And so that's kind of like how I'll put it.
You've worked with various founders at different stages, and not everybody makes it to scale.
Yeah.
Right. You had mentioned before about the fact that even you yourself have experienced certain failures on certain businesses. Right. What are the patterns that successful startups share from your experience with various, even with the ones you have succeeded in? What would you say are like patterns that successful startups share?
So I'm careful because of the danger of pattern matching. I'm careful because I believe that the goal as an investor for me, my goal is to spot the unconventional and the unobvious. And if you focus on patterns, then you're looking for things that you're familiar with. And if your goal is to look at things that you're familiar with, you will miss out on the unicorns.
I see.
Yeah. And by unicorns, I don't necessarily mean in the sense of tech businesses going big and blowing out, but I mean even in life, just the unicorns in life, those things that are just so magnificent in experiencing them, you'll miss out. Yeah, it's just like wanting to talk to Yoruba and you only want to just be talking to Yoruba people, or you're from Plateau State, you only want to be interacting. If you keep that, if you're looking at those traits you're familiar with in people and you don't see them in a person and you decide, I don't think I want to go along with this person, then you're going to miss something fundamental. And so I feel like the future is hidden in the present, because that's what entrepreneurship is all about. Ultimately, I think entrepreneurship is presenting us the future now. And so the future is hidden in the present in ways that we can't see. And pattern matching is one of the ways that we are blind to the future. Yeah. So I don't do patterns. I know people would argue and say, yeah, this guy's talking trash, because the textbooks don't say that. But if you see any successful investor, one of the things they'll tell you is that they try to look for the unobvious. I try to understand what you have that others don't have, not what you have that is commonly shared. Then what makes you different? So, but to your question, because again, there might be certain similarities that you see in people that, I think your question was in successful, right? In terms of maybe being able to raise. I think one of the things that I see is the ability to convince people that you're in it for the long haul. Because ultimately, investors invest in people.
Yes.
Ultimately. And one of the ways that a person, I had this friend who's an author, and he really went through a lot when he took that pathway in life, because he came from a very established family, well-to-do, and people couldn't understand, why does this guy want to write for his life? And one of the days we were talking, he said to me, he's like, you're about the only person who has believed in me. All this, and we've known each other from primary school. And I said to him, I was like, dude, it's easy for me because it's one of two things for me. It's either you know what you're doing or you're crazy. So I just simplified it. Simple. And I know you're not crazy. So you must know what you're doing. Then it's just a matter of time. So people want to understand that this is what you're going to be doing. So I like the entrepreneurs that are successful are those who are still doing what they were talking about 10 years ago and will be doing that going down. Of course, there's the place for iteration and all whatnot, but you want to see that this person is here for the long haul. Yeah. I think for me, it's the if I'm going to look at a pattern in people, that's what I'm going to look at. Almost every successful person didn't fluke it. They wanted to be here, and they wanted to be here for the long haul. So I think for me, that's key.
I've heard you teach about the onlyness principle. And then you had just touched on something saying if somebody's talking about the same thing you were talking about 10 years ago. Right. I want you, and I know that a number of people, the first time I heard you talk about it at one of our meetings, a few people were like, no, I don't agree with you. So I would like you to share the principle and the why behind this principle.
Yeah. I mean, I'll make it simple, and I'll try to make it, I'll try to touch it with a bit of light humor. And I think I gave the same example when I was talking at that group meeting, right? I said, I mean, I speak to the ladies and say, okay, how many girls here want to be the other girl in a man's life? And you just see that there's this look of disapproval, because ultimately you want to be the only one. We say those things, you want to be the sugar in my tea, the only mosquito in my net. We used to say those funny... I don't know why we thought those things were cool, but I guess they were, but onlyness, it was a way to let someone know that, it made the difference. It was what built the foundation for sustainability, onlyness. And that's what onlyness does, even in entrepreneurship and business. Because onlyness allows you to differentiate. And differentiation is the edge. Back again to patterns and pattern matching. People don't come to you because of what you do that others can do. People come to you because of what you do different. Why did I used to travel with ABC back in the day? Because ABC was the only bus service that went at 100 kilometers per hour. and I don't like speed. That was their onlyness. People hated, and your onlyness allows you to know those who are not for you. And that's the problem a lot of people don't understand. They're trying to target everybody. That's the death of a business. Who are your customers? Everybody. I know you're not going far. So onlyness allows you to define your customers, your needs perfectly. Perfectly. When you go to places that you eat, people tell me, oh, I go to this place. This amala joint is the only amala joint that does this. So you gravitate towards, if we really analyze our lives, we'll see that we habitually, unconsciously live by the onlyness principle. We want it in our lives. We want it in our relationships. We want it in our friendships. We get jealous when, Tim and I are friends. We roll every day. Then our team was up. Oh, there's this guy, you get this Ben. And what's up with Tim now? He's not rolling with Ben. You're no longer, something in you is like, I want to, So the concept of onlyness is really just differentiation. Why are you in business? So I said the ABC example. And you're traveling in ABC. Once the driver exceeds 100, you start hearing the beep, 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 beep. So you knew. And you could say, driver, slow down. Let's talk about G. You know what? Just being able to buy a ticket online is. And I think right now in Jaws, I dare say they're the only. People are trying to now follow. And that's the thing about onlyness. People now follow you. So onlyness is not just a differentiator, but it's a trailblazing differentiator. Because when you're the only person that does it, anybody that people dance, if you're into entertainment, and they say what reference? They dance like who? Michael Jackson. Because it's only Michael Jackson that dances like Michael Jackson. His voice is unique. Sorry, I'm a big fan. If Michael sings, you can only sing like Michael. Onlyness. So I think it's very crucial, not just for business, but in life, but essentially in business, because many people don't even know why they exist.
Yeah.
Dr. Fish. Only fish. Not just only fish, only catfish, if I'm not mistaken. When I go into the place at Airport Junction, it's only catfish I've seen. I don't see them selling any other kind of fish. Do you know how many? There's many types of fishes in the world, but they sell only catfish. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So that's the concept. It's hard for people, especially in Nigeria.
Now, this thing you're about to say, because how does this tie to, one, the current Nigerian economy?
Yeah.
Where I'm a young person, and there's also the conversation of side hustles.
Yeah.
Right? So that at least at the end of the day, your take-home pay can take you home.
Yep.
Right? And then how does this then tie to because of course this is basically saying focus.
Yes.
But then how does this then tie to the current state of the economy? Where
Good question.
I don't want Sakwa to send me back to the village.
I didn't see that coming. Good question. And we've blamed it on the economy for so long. So I'll try to take a stand for the economy. And I know people might hate this. The economy is neutral. It might be badly managed. So let's separate the two things. The economy is neutral. It may be badly managed. Most times when we talk about the economy and we blame the economy, we're focusing on the management. We're referring to the management. The economy is neutral. The economy doesn't know me, doesn't know you, doesn't know how you look. It doesn't know what you're doing. And really, it doesn't care. Now, why do I say the economy is neutral? Because in the same economy where people are lamenting, people are closing shop. I have a friend who runs a restaurant, and I was at a restaurant some time ago, and we sat down and we were talking. And he said, we make over almost 2 million here every day. I laughed. I said, that's a lie. He was like, why would I say that? I was like, you can't make Joss. And you know what he said to me? He didn't start trying to bring out the books. He said, sir, how much was your food? Okay. That was almost 10K. And I was there with a friend. So that was almost 20K. He said, how long have you been here? We've been there for about 45 minutes. He says, in the time that you've been here, how many people have walked in and paid about the same amount or more, because everybody that I saw leaving the restaurant was carrying bags. So I can't even imagine how much they were paying.
Yeah.
And I did the small math in the 45 minutes I was there. And this was about 8 p.m. He said, sir, we open at 9 and we close at 9. I said, I'm sorry. You're right. In Jos, Rayfield, somebody's closing shop. And then somebody will be in state locals or to the other and be complaining and be lamenting. Like, I don't get it. The question really is, how well are you positioned within the economy? I've never gone to Valji on a given day and people say, oh, when they tell me, oh, Oga, nobody traveled to Abuja today because the economy hard. No. You just need to walk Yakubu Gowon Street at 8 p.m. and see the trucks coming in. They tell you that the economy. So the question is, are you properly positioned? I think that's the real question.
The main question.
Are you properly positioned within the economy? So that's the question. And it speaks again to the kind of entrepreneurship. Because what we're largely doing in Nigeria is survival entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Which doesn't necessarily depart from skill acquisition.
Mm-hmm.
We've had two phases of entrepreneurship in Nigeria. The first, the advent of entrepreneurship in Nigeria was motivational. Mm-hmm. It was the church. The advent of churches like Living Faith with Pastor Oyedepo's preaching, just like the way the Calvinists and Reformists contributed to the development of Europe through their message on diligence.
Yeah.
You saw that coming from the church.
Yeah.
Work ethic strong, especially like, again, I'm not holding brief for anybody, but at that time, yesteryears, Living Faith had that work ethic, that prosperity ethic, and it made the people believe. And in believing, they achieved. Mm-hmm. It's just a simple principle. So then you had that movement, then it moved into the Pentecostal, messages, the prosperity gospel. Then you had people like, Fela Durotoye. So entrepreneurship was being propagated by church people. And it didn't help us. It helped to push us, to motivate us, to get us started, to deal with the realities of the economy. But it didn't help us in the sense that that wasn't entrepreneurship. It was motivation.
I see.
Yeah. Because you were thriving in the marketplace based on prayer. And I'm not taking away, again, I'm Christian, and proudly so. And I pray, but the approach, nobody uses that same approach in medicine and architecture and engineering now. So entrepreneurship is a field. So we had the motivational mentality for entrepreneurship, and then we transitioned from there to the skill acquisition mentality, which is where we're at. So when our government is really talking about entrepreneurship,
they're doing skill
acquisition. And that is very dangerous.
In fact, I always ask, I had this conversation with someone some time ago, and I said, okay, so when they've learned this skill and when this is done, how do they then convert it to economic power?
Beautiful question. Beautiful question. The guy on the road selling fuel in his keg is doing one level of entrepreneurship. The guy who is opening a fuel station is doing one level of entrepreneurship. The guy who has a fuel tank or fuel dump is one level. The guy who built the refinery is a whole new level. Then his refinery disrupted the whole marketplace. That's the difference. Where in the economy are you positioned? And when we if all the entrepreneurship we do, because entrepreneurship should feed. So small players should feed medium players, should feed larger players, and that's the problem. Because the person who's selling masa at the corner, she's not going to be a Kilimanjaro. Kilimanjaro is a success story. Kilimanjaro is actually owned by my senior in school.
Oh, really?
Yes, Ebele Anoa, the owner, the founder of Kilimanjaro, was my senior in school. When I was in Form 1, he was in Form 4. Beautiful brand, not because my senior in school started it, but they have from one outlet in Port Harcourt Kilimanjaro has grown to over 100 outlets across Nigeria.
Across the country.
They moved from Port Harcourt, conquered the southeast, and they moved up to Abuja. They came to Jos, then Kedi, then Makurdi, then Akure. Amazing. In the same economy. And then we have businesses in Jos who haven't grown more than 2 outlets. So these are the questions we need to really interrogate. The whys. What's happening? What's the operationalization of entrepreneurship within our context? But to your specific question, right? I ask entrepreneurs, I start with a proverb, you can't chase 2 rabbits and catch them. So the question I ask people, is your activity productivity? Are you busy or are you building? Because ultimately that's the question. And I don't think you can build 5 things simultaneously. So you can keep hustling. Side hustle, I have no beef with side hustle, but that's all you're going to be doing. Does side hustle grow? You cannot grow side hustle by accident. You can only grow a side hustle by a deliberate, painful process of delaying gratification and assessing opportunity cost and making choices. That's just how you grow it. If you see anybody that their side business grew to the main business, you would see that it's the same thing they follow. But that you think you can fluke side hustle to a big business, that's not going to happen. And most of the successful entrepreneurs I know at a point had to give up something. So when people want to do many things, what they're just essentially telling me is that there's nothing that catches you enough to give up on something. And then you might ask the question, but what about if your side hustle is not helping you pay the bills? Then you need to query the side hustle. Because again, back to the concept of entrepreneurship, creating value, capturing value.
Yeah.
So if one side hustle is not paying the bills, then you're not capturing enough value. So you can ask yourself, maybe there's not enough value to be captured in that market. Back to what you said earlier, then get out of the market. Or maybe you're not creating enough value for the market. Then you need to go back to the drawing board. But man, in a Nigeria that we've heard stories of Akara women that built houses and paid their children's school fees. Even in Jos, we can point fingers to them on the road. People that are selling masa that have houses that people that are buying the masa don't even have. Do you get what I'm saying? So what's the argument, really?
Yeah.
Again, I know people don't like what I'm saying. Yeah, I catch flack for some things I say, but the truth of the matter is, are we really being honest? Are we we're just trying to do easy because building is difficult.
Building is difficult. It's really difficult.
It's difficult, and I get it. And that's why entrepreneurship cannot be a lonely journey. Yeah, people's businesses are suffering, their side hustles are suffering because they remain side hustles. Stop doing side hustle, make it a business. Commit to building. That's it. Commit to building, and you would see the difference.
Yeah.
And let me end with this. The businesses that I think are most successful are businesses that focus on only one thing. I'll talk about a brand that I'm very passionate about, and I've been passionate about for over 20 years, Mr. Lass. As a restaurant, Mr. Lass has probably the leanest menu. Mr. Lass does rice, jollof rice, moi moi, beans and dodo. And that's about it. Coleslaw, thank you. That's about it. He started trying to do swallow at one time. It didn't work out. That's his menu. And for over 25 years, Mr. Lass did not expand on the menu, and he is still in existence. I've seen him move from small shop to bigger shop to even bigger shop to even bigger shop. So what happened? That's contrary to what people say.
Yeah.
Now you go into a restaurant, you open the menu, it's like an encyclopedia. You can't even choose. So who says that the guy who's only restaurant that does this? So let me close that section, this question with this. When I was in university, my mom had a restaurant in UJ at that time. It was called Femolad. Femolad is just my name, all of the kids' names together. Now, at that time, she did 2 things I would call onlyness. They were the only restaurants in the university that served chips. Oh yes, they were in Naraguta, and people will come from Student Village just to eat chips. There was no other place. There was no other place you could eat chips in UJ at that time. If you ask anybody. Now the other thing that they did was that they did something about portions. They were the only restaurants where you could eat in portions because she noticed that guys and girls eat differently. Babes never finish their food. They'll come and they'll buy food and they can't finish it. And she noticed that these girls are not finishing their food. So instead of going to a place and say, give me one rice, you can now buy rice in a portion. So it changed their menu. One portion, and you could have one portion of rice, one portion of chips. You could mix. That was onlyness. They were the only restaurant that you could drink their water without thinking. Yeah, because they boiled their water like it was boiled. Then fourth, they were the only restaurant that did not cook with firewood. Yeah. Now, I think there's a fifth one. At that time, she did something innovative. She started hiring students to work in the restaurant.
Oh, I see.
Oh, so there are many onlyness. They didn't do Coke. They only did Zobo and Kunu. So I could go on and on and on, not just because it's my mom, but I think this is even a lesson for me. I didn't even realize at that time that I could list 6 onlyness things, but it made Femolad successful.
Amazing. Okay, so let's head to the concluding part of this. Now, being a VC strategist, a number of people, entrepreneurs in Nigeria, still don't really understand the concept of that the venture capitalist space, right? Now, from your own experience and in your own words, how does it really work?
So I won't say that's a simple question to just answer I won't answer it casually. I think that's better, but I won't answer it casually. But I'll say this, venture capital works within a context. And the context that venture capital works within is innovation. So there's a lot of there's a lot of stuff that is misconstrued when it comes to venture capital because everybody thinks that venture capital is for every kind of business. No, venture capital is not for every kind of business. People also think that venture capital is really kind of tailored for tech. Again, that is also misleading. So that's why I say venture capital is a way of financing innovation. And why is it a way of financing innovation? Because innovation is high risk. We don't know what will work. And so venture capital is the vehicle for funding the future innovation, the innovation that drives the changes in the future. I think for me, that's the best way I would describe venture capital. And in doing so, it kind of clarifies that venture capital is not for every kind of business. There's different kinds of funding. Venture capital has just become big because of the trends in the system now, the tech space and tech ecosystem boom and all that, and unicorns and everything. But venture capital is actually a special type of funding that is geared towards the context of innovation. And innovation can be tech-based and it can be non-tech-based. That's a whole real conversation, to be honest. But if you ask me, just for simplicity and clarity, I would say venture capital funds innovation. And basically, I tell people, innovation is bringing new ways to do things. You can innovate products, you can innovate process, you can innovate business model. So for example, what does that mean? One might ask. A business model innovation, Airbnb, Uber, they were not technological innovations. They were business model innovations. In other words, we want to give space to people, but we don't want to build. Hotel businesses existed before Airbnb, but to have a hotel, you either had to rent the building or build the building or buy the building, but you needed to own the building. So the asset base was strong, it was asset intensive, right? But they said, no, we don't want to build a business structure that is asset heavy. In their financial implications, that's another conversation. But what they said is, and then of course, developments like the shared economy, if they had done Airbnb 20, 30 years ago, it wouldn't have worked because we hadn't morphed, humanity hadn't evolved into the shared economy. Several things made this whole shared economy notion premium, right?
Yeah.
So all they did was, look, they put bits and pieces of the ecosystem together in a way that worked. People have free space. People are looking for space. Unconventional spaces, when the traditional spaces, as we know, hotels, guest houses, boarding spaces are not available.
Yeah.
And then they tried to plug all that together. And we saw the birth of that based on certain dimensions. So that was a business model innovation. Apple as an iPhone, with their iPhone, that's product innovation with what they're doing. And then you could have process innovation, which could just be a newer way of doing things. So before, I mean, everybody's shouting Bluetooth, Bluetooth. Before Bluetooth, there was something called infrared.
Yeah. So you had to put the two phones together around that spot.
Now you have something called the NFC with your phone you can do. So these are process innovations. One way a thing is done versus another way we used to do it. So any innovation across this, it's innovation. But ultimately, venture capital funds a kind of innovation that will lead to products of businesses that grow fast and grow far. They target billion-dollar market. So it's a different kind of funding. Unfortunately, everybody's throwing VC everywhere now. Everybody wants money. Even angel investors. Technically, angel investors were really targeted towards the tech ecosystem innovation space. They're not even for normal businesses. But there are a lot of blurry lines coming right now. So for me, that's kind of like what I would say.
Now, what are some of the biggest red flags that founders make when they're pitching to investors?
So again, I think that is based on the investor that they're pitching. There's something I see that is dangerous. We're conditioning people about, again, because of these patterns and this pattern matching. So for example, I hear this 3-minute pitch, 1-minute pitch. I think those things are useless. Yeah. I think they serve purposes if you're doing a competition for excitement and tension. Well, what exactly is a 1-minute pitch? Really? No. Have you ever stopped for a moment in your life and somebody was trying to tell you something and said, you just have 1 minute to say what you have to say? It doesn't happen in everyday life. Nobody who wants to really know something wants you to tell them that in 1 minute. I just don't know why we do that, and it has become standard. I think those are practices we need to ask. So I think we need to start saying maybe we need to give more time to people to pitch. You have a 10 slide pitch deck, and you have 3 minutes. How possible is that? And so what happens is when people are pitching, they start getting confused. The tension, again, we've made a spot of it, but that's not what we're here to talk about, right? But to the question you asked, fundamental mistakes, I think different investors have what they're looking at. So I think the first fundamental mistake is not even understanding who you're pitching before. So back to what I was saying about the patterns, one of the things that I see now is they're making people make beautiful slides, storytelling. I hate storytelling. Get straight to the point. I don't want to hear this. I'm not here for stories. This is not Tales by Moonlight. But you see, there's another person that wants...
But the storytelling is what he's selling right now.
Exactly. So I'm miserable when I sit on some of these meetings and these panels. I'm really miserable. But yeah, exactly. If you can tell... People with dud ideas are telling great stories and they're raising great capital.
Yeah.
So that's it. So you have to know who you're talking to. You have to know your audience. I think that's a big principle in communication. The first mistake is they don't know who they're talking to. No two investors are the same. Don't take experience from investor one and take it to... Try to understand who you're talking to. Try to get a feel of them prior before you meet them. I like numbers. I drill down in numbers. In fact, that's the only thing I'm interested in. If you can show me the numbers and show me how these numbers are going to grow exponentially, I don't care for anything else, to be honest. Every other thing, I'm going to look at it from the numbers. But if you present your numbers to me, we're good. I'm ready to take the conversation further. I don't want your slides to have pictures, white background, fonts. Once I start seeing pictures, I'm like, oh, you had time to do all this. You get like, you really, is this why you're here? Again, people are different. So I would say first mistake is you don't study your audience. You don't study the investor. That's the first. The second is you don't have clarity about the idea that you're pitching. I think that's the second. So for me, I think fundamentally, what's your idea? Two, you put in too much hope into the pitch, into the event, that if you get disappointed, then it might stop you from building. Because I think anything worth building is worth building, irrespective of whether it got funded or not. Yeah. Again, to my relationship analogy, just like the girl you will marry, her father says, over my dead body, you say, sweetheart, we'll wait until he goes. Because now you get. So if we really know that we're about to build this, then the fact that you didn't get funded shouldn't stop you. So I think three things, I would say, based on my own experience, not knowing who you're pitching to, not understanding the psyche of your investors. So some people like to argue. I don't like it when you argue with me, because when I'm sitting down here on the other end, I think I have more experience. So if you argue against my experience, it's already a bad sign, because you're already telling me that I can't lead you, I can't advise you. And if I'm going to take a board seat, then we're going to have problems. So that's the first one. The second one is your idea is not clear. And these are the people that just keep going round and round and round and round and round. And third one is about feeling like the journey ends if we don't get the outcome that we want. So, yeah. I think.
So as we bring this to a close, how can someone become really investment ready? If someone is sitting down and listening to this right now and they're trying to build whatever the enterprise that they're growing is, what should they begin to put in place and put in their mind to be truly investment ready?
So to be truly investment ready, I think the first thing I'll say is build for legacy, build for sustainability. Build for legacy, in other words, build something that's bigger than you. Build something that's not just about the lifestyle you want to live. Again, different people build for different reasons, but if you want to be investment ready, people want to go with you when you have a vision that is bigger than yourself. It's actually something that attracts investors, So build for legacy, right? Build for sustainability, build for tomorrow, build for beyond yourself. Try to understand, if I'm not here today, does this business continue? Can it continue? I think those are interesting questions to ask. Also, nobody is trying to invest someone that's trying to go on this journey alone. When people sense that you are trying to do this all by yourself, you pass a wrong message that you're really not someone who's willing to share. I know people who sit on, and I say this with a lot of heaviness in my heart, I know people, some friends, who sit on what I consider to be multi-million naira ventures, but they remain small because they're running it by themselves. They love the whole idea of being the boss. They don't want to bring in co-founders. They don't want to bring in partners. Any sense of sharing their business it doesn't just sit well with them. And year in, year out, they just remain there. It's painful to watch. A friend of mine says, 100% of zero is zero. 100% of one is one. 10% of 1 million makes sense, right? So you must build something, and you must build with other people. That value you're creating must be value. There's something they call share. You don't just create customer value, you create share. In fact, so this is interesting. Let's even for now, there's two values: customer value, shareholder value. Once there's an investment, there are shareholders. People have mastered the art of creating customer value. They haven't mastered the art of creating shareholder value. And you can only create shareholder value when you're building an asset. So if you don't have an asset building mentality, it's going to be hard. The only people that invest in you are people who are not investors, who are not professional investors, because professional investors want value. And so that's a core thing that I think I would say to people What are you building? Goes back to that. What are you building? Are you just building a fancy idea? Are you trying to extend your hobby? Is this just one of those expressions you want to have before you leave the earth? Fine. But if you're not building an asset, you're not going to attract investors. And the whole concept of building an asset is a whole conversation on its own, right? But few things. Is there growth potential? And it's something you touched on.
Yeah.
Is this market grand? Is there growth potential? Is just your market going to grow from where it is to this? And what is the time span? Yeah. 2, is there risk involved? And by risk, I don't mean risky. I mean that with risk and reward go together. So the more the risk, the more the reward. Investors are always looking for reward. All investors work based on the risk-reward dichotomy. Some are risk averse, some are not. But the higher the risk, the higher the reward. So if you're someone pushing down, building an asset with a high risk, then you might ask me, how do you manage the high risk? The next thing goes to management. That's why management get on a business. Yeah, that's the difference between solely owned businesses and limited liabilities, because once you have a limited liability by law, you must have a management team. And the essence of a management team is to de-risk the business. That's their job. So your management team is what gives investors confidence. That's why when you see that there's a change in management structure, you see that investor confidence goes high. Those are the first people that get fired. Once companies change hands, they just start kicking people out. Why? Because they want... you see that even in sports. When a team is not performing, who do they kick? They kick the manager. Why? Because it's your job to deliver. So the third thing, so growth potential, risk, management team to manage the risk and all that, protect the investment. And the final thing is other people's resources, other people's money. Typically, an investment presents an opportunity for people to get in here to get value. So the question people want to know is, who else is coming along to this party?
Yeah.
So these are the little things that I think, again, it's a whole expansive conversation, but these 4 things, if anybody catches them and translates them into where they are right now, I think it'll go a long way.
Amazing. Any last words for someone who's watching this and they're in that place where they're about to start, and maybe they're even afraid to start? What are the words you leave with them?
Wow, interesting. I'm almost tempted to say, just do it. But no. Nah, I think that's bad advice from Nike. Sorry, Nike. Don't just do it. People always would ask, what is your why? But I always say, instead of asking what is your why not ask, what if? So, what if I don't do it? What changes? What if I do it? What changes? On the strength of the answers, you make your decision. Yeah. Because if certain people didn't do certain things, we wouldn't have the world experience. If Elon Musk didn't take a shot at it, we'll never have probably thought we could drive electric cars. If somebody decided not to do Apple, we probably wouldn't know the experience of an iPhone today. Yeah. And if Timothy had said, what if, maybe it's not such a big deal. I won't be sitting in the studio today, and just that wouldn't be in existence. So you would have weighed. This presents a new reality. So this is a what if. This is an outcome of a what if. So there's a reality that knows just start. There could have been a reality without just start. Yeah. So I think the what if question helps you understand how important what you want to do is going to be to the human existence. So to the entrepreneur who's trying to start, honestly, I would say if you're really super convinced, take the first step. It doesn't have to be the grandest step, but just take a step and surround yourself by people. People say if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together with people. So that's what I'm going to say. Don't think too long about trying to do it, right? Because you're going to have 1,001 reasons not to. But let the what if drive you and find the right team. Once you surround yourself with a community of entrepreneurs who are like-minded, you're good to go. You're good to go. Yeah.
Whoa, this has been a super amazing session. So many key points, and I still have like a ton of questions to ask. Yeah, but we have to bring this to a wrap. So maybe some other time we'll find time to really then go into some other things. But this has been really insightful, and totally captures the things that I had in mind when we were discussing having you on the session. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you more,
and for all of these gems that you have shared here.
Thank you more, man. It's been awesome. It's been a pleasure. I've shared many great moments, great times with you, but I think this is a high. This is a high.
Thank you.
This is a high. Thank you for being a good host.
Thank you, sir. All right. Thank you so much for watching. It has been so exciting. I'd like to read your comments and see the parts of this interaction that has, giving you a lot of things to go back to think about. Till we come your way again, my name is Timothy Kunat, and I will see you soon at the very next episode. Take care.